For most of his life, Harry Potter believed that Albus Dumbledore was his protector, a wise old wizard, a mentor, a father figure, the one person who always seemed to know exactly what to do. When Harry was lost, Dumbledore guided him. When Harry was afraid, Dumbledore reassured him. And when the entire wizarding world turned against him, Dumbledore stood by his side. At least, that is what Harry believed. But what if the truth is much darker? What if Dumbledore was never simply protecting Harry? What if, from the very beginning, he knew that Harry Potter would have to die? And what if he chose to raise Harry, not as a child to be saved, but as a sacrifice to be prepared? To understand this possibility, we must go back to the night Harry's life changed forever. The night Lord Voldemort entered the Potter home. The night he murdered James and Lily Potter. And the night he unknowingly marked Harry as his equal. When Voldemort cast the killing curse, something extraordinary happened. The curse rebounded. Voldemort's body was destroyed, but a fragment of his soul attached itself to the only living being in the room. Harry Potter. Harry did not merely survive. He became something no one intended. A living Horcrux. A container for a piece of Voldemort's soul. And years later, Dumbledore realized the terrifying truth. As long as Harry lived with that fragment inside him, Voldemort could never be completely destroyed. Which meant that one day, Harry would need to face Voldemort. And one day, Harry would need to die. This is where everything changes. Because Dumbledore knew this long before Harry did. He understood the burden Harry carried. He understood the destiny awaiting him. And yet, he said nothing. Instead, he watched Harry grow. He allowed him to form friendships, to experience love, to discover hope, to trust him completely. Year after year, Dumbledore guided Harry like a chess master moving a piece across a board. Every lesson, every clue, every carefully timed revelation, all of it led toward one final moment. The moment Harry would willingly walk to his own death. Perhaps the most disturbing evidence comes from Severus Snape's memories. In one unforgettable conversation, Snape realizes what Dumbledore has been planning. With shock and anger, he asks if Harry has been raised like a pig for slaughter. That line changes everything. Because even Snape, a man who had done terrible things, was horrified. He believed Dumbledore genuinely cared for Harry. But in that moment, he saw another possibility. That Dumbledore had known all along, and had deliberately prepared Harry for sacrifice. Dumbledore's response is telling. He does not deny it. He does not express regret. Instead, he remains calm, measured, strategic, as if he had accepted this necessity long ago. To Dumbledore, the fate of the entire world rested on one impossible decision. Could one boy be asked to die so that countless others might live? Dumbledore believed the answer was yes. But there was one crucial detail. Harry could not be forced. He had to choose. If Harry went to Voldemort willingly, out of love and self-sacrifice, ancient magic would protect those he cared about. And because Voldemort used Harry's blood when he returned to physical form, he unknowingly tethered Harry to life. Dumbledore believed that Harry might survive. But might is not certainty. There was still enormous risk. And Dumbledore never gave Harry the full truth until the very end. Think about what that means. For years, Harry trusted Dumbledore more than anyone else. He followed his instructions. He risked his life repeatedly. He suffered loss after loss. Cedric Diggory, Sirius Black, Alastor Moody, Dobby. And through it all, Dumbledore carried a secret so devastating that it would change everything Harry thought he knew. When Harry finally learns the truth, he does not scream. He does not run. He does not beg for another way. Instead, he walks alone into the forbidden forest. No one beside him. No guarantee of survival. No certainty that Dumbledore's plan will work. Only faith. Faith in the man who had hidden the truth from him for years. That is what makes this story so tragic. Harry was not forced to die. But his choice was shaped by a lifetime of trust. A trust carefully built by the very man who knew this moment was coming. So was Dumbledore a manipulator? Did he exploit Harry's love and loyalty? Did he mold a child into the perfect hero, knowing that heroism would demand the ultimate sacrifice? Or was he simply doing what no one else had the courage to do? Dumbledore was never a simple character. He understood power. He understood guilt. And above all, he understood that leadership often requires unbearable choices. He had already seen what happens when great power falls into the wrong hands. His own past with Gellert Grindelwald haunted him for the rest of his life. He knew that hesitation could doom the world. And so he chose the path that offered the greatest chance of victory. Even if that path led a 17-year-old boy to what appeared to be certain death. Yet there is another side to this story. Dumbledore did love Harry. In King's Cross, after Harry's sacrifice, Dumbledore admits that he cared too much, that his affection made it difficult to tell Harry the truth sooner. This confession reveals a painful contradiction. Dumbledore was both strategist and guardian. He loved Harry deeply, and he still allowed events to unfold towards sacrifice. Perhaps that is what makes his actions so unsettling. He was not a villain. He was not heartless. He was a man who believed that saving the world required an impossible burden to be placed on someone he truly loved. In the end, Harry survived. Voldemort's soul fragment was destroyed, and the wizarding world was saved. History remembers Dumbledore as one of the greatest wizards of all time. A hero, a mentor, a legend. But legends are rarely simple. Behind the gentle smile and wise words stood a man capable of extraordinary calculation. A man who saw farther than anyone else. A man who understood that the fate of millions might depend on one boy's willingness to die. So the question remains, was Albus Dumbledore a loving protector? Or was he the architect of the greatest sacrifice in wizarding history? Did he save Harry? Or did he raise him for slaughter? Perhaps the most haunting answer is that he did both. And perhaps that is the true tragedy of Harry Potter. That the boy who lived was also the boy who was prepared to die. And the man who loved him most was the one who led him to that moment. Long before Harry Potter was born, Albus Dumbledore had already learned one of the most painful lessons of his life. As a young man, Dumbledore was brilliant, ambitious, and hungry for change. He believed that extraordinary people had a responsibility to shape the world. And during this period, he met Gellert Grindelwald. Together, they dreamed of creating a new order. A world in which wizards would rule over muggles. A world built, as they called it, for the greater good. Those four words would haunt Dumbledore for the rest of his life. For the greater good. The belief that the suffering of a few could be justified if it led to the salvation of many. But their vision ended in tragedy. Ariana Dumbledore, Albus's beloved sister, died during a duel involving both young men. And although the truth of what happened was never fully known, Dumbledore carried the guilt forever. He learned that even noble intentions can lead to devastating consequences. He learned that power, no matter how well-intentioned, always demands a price. And perhaps most importantly, he learned that leadership often requires choices that no one should ever have to make. Years later, when Harry Potter entered his life, Dumbledore faced another impossible decision. This time, the stakes were even higher. The survival of the entire wizarding world. Dumbledore saw in Harry something extraordinary. Not only courage and kindness, but a willingness to put others before himself. The very qualities that made Harry special were also the qualities that made him vulnerable. Because Dumbledore knew that when the time came, Harry would choose sacrifice. Not because he was manipulated, but because that is who Harry truly was. This is what makes Dumbledore's plan so morally complex. He did not create Harry's bravery. He recognized it. He nurtured it, and when the final moment arrived, he trusted that Harry would do what no one else could. Yet this raises an uncomfortable question. If you know that someone is willing to die for others, is it right to guide them toward that fate? Or does that knowledge itself become a form of manipulation? Throughout the series, Dumbledore repeatedly withholds information. He keeps Harry in the dark. He reveals only what is necessary, and he waits until the very last possible moment to tell Harry the truth. Some see this as wisdom. Others see it as control. Perhaps it was both. Dumbledore understood that too much truth, revealed too soon, might have broken Harry, or changed the choices that needed to be made. So he carried the burden alone, knowing that one day Harry might hate him for it, and still believing that there was no other way. In King's Cross, after everything is over, Dumbledore finally allows himself to be honest. He admits that he cared too much, that his love for Harry clouded his judgment, that he delayed telling Harry the truth because he did not want to hurt him. This confession reveals the human being behind the legend. Not an all-knowing mastermind, not a cold manipulator, but an old man trying to balance love and responsibility. A man forced to choose between saving one child and saving an entire world. And in the end, he chose both. He trusted in Harry's heart. He trusted in ancient magic. And he trusted that love would succeed where power had always failed. That trust changed everything. Harry walked into the forest prepared to die, but because he embraced sacrifice willingly, he became stronger than Voldemort ever understood. Voldemort believed power came from fear. Dumbledore knew that true power came from love. This was the lesson Dumbledore had spent his entire life learning, and Harry Potter became the final proof that he was right. So is Dumbledore a liar? Yes, he concealed the truth. He manipulated events, and he led Harry toward what seemed to be certain death. But he also did something far more complicated. He believed in Harry. He trusted Harry more than anyone else ever had, and he gave Harry the chance to become the hero the world needed. Perhaps that is why the debate continues to this day. Some view Dumbledore as a master strategist willing to sacrifice anything. Others see him as a deeply flawed guardian who made impossible decisions out of love. And perhaps both interpretations are true, because the most fascinating characters are never entirely good or entirely evil. They live in the space between, the space where love and manipulation coexist, where truth and deception become inseparable, where saving the world may require breaking the heart of the person you care about most. In the end, Harry Potter was not simply a victim. He was not merely a pawn in someone else's plan. He was a young man who chose courage over fear, love over hatred, and sacrifice over survival. But the path that led him there was built by Albus Dumbledore, a man whose greatest strength was his wisdom, and whose greatest flaw was his willingness to decide the fate of others. So the final question remains: did Dumbledore betray Harry Potter, or did he prepare him to fulfill the destiny that only he could embrace? Perhaps the answer is the same secret that lies at the heart of the entire Harry Potter story, that love is the most powerful force in the world. But sometimes love asks us to make the most painful choices of all.